Life is a curious thing. The more tightly we cling to it, the more it seems to slip through our fingers, like water grasped in a desperate fist. We spend so much of our time trying to preserve ourselves, protecting our identities, defending our reputations, chasing permanence, security, success. Yet the harder we try to hold life still, the more it wriggles free. This is the first paradox. Life is not a possession, it is a process, and whatever is alive is in motion. To cling to life is to fight. You can confirm this in the smallest moments. Think of the times you tried desperately to relax, forcing quiet upon your mind. The more you tried, the more restless you became. Or the nights when you needed sleep the most, and found yourself staring at the ceiling, strangled by your efforts. Joy too escapes you when pursued like an animal. The moment you chase happiness, it darts into the bushes. But when you are not looking for it, it sits quietly beside you, like a cat that comes only when the house is still. And so it is with life itself. The moment it becomes something to preserve, to grip, to defend, it begins to wither. We crush life when we make it an object, something to own, something to win, something to protect endlessly, as though we might build a wall high enough to keep time out. But time does not knock politely, it flows through the cracks. And the more bee children understand this instinctively. They throw themselves into each moment without hesitation. They play not to achieve something, not because they fear failure, not because they need to prove anything, but because play is simply what life is doing through them. They do not hold the moment, they become the moment. And before we learn to be so careful, so calculated, we lived this same way, acting without the constant observer in the back of the mind, without the inner judge checking whether we were doing it right. Life becomes heavy when we split ourselves in two, the one who is living, and the one who is watching to make sure life is lived correctly. The watcher tries to control, to maintain, to grip the river as it passes, but the watcher is the confusion. There is no benefit in watching yourself be alive. There is only being alive. When a dancer thinks too much about technique, about the next step, the next turn, the dance stiffens. But when the dancer dissolves into the music, when the steps disappear, when there is no distance between the dance and the one who dances, then expression becomes fluid, effortless, alive. You cannot cling to life without killing the spontaneity that makes it worth living. Every moment you defend against change is a moment you refuse to participate in the flow of existence. And change is not the enemy. Change is the nature of life itself. We are not separate from it. We are made of it. Just as a flame is a continuous burning, never the same twice, we too are a continuous unfolding of events, feelings, thoughts, breaths, beginnings, and endings, all arising in a rhythm older than time. So why do we try to resist? Why do we cling? We cling because we are afraid of loss, afraid of making the wrong choices, afraid of not becoming the ideal version of ourselves we carry in our minds. But perhaps even deeper than all of that, we are afraid of death, afraid that if we do not grip every second, we will slip into nothingness. Yet the tragedy is that in trying so desperately not to die, we forget to live. Consider the hand. A fist is strong, but it cannot receive. The open hand is vulnerable. Yes, anything may enter, and anything may leave, but only an open hand can hold the softness of life without crushing it. Love works this way. Friendship works this way. Freedom works this way. When love becomes possession, it becomes suffocation. When friendship becomes control, it becomes resentment. When freedom becomes fear, it becomes a cage. Nothing alive can be kept without losing what made it precious. Imagine holding a butterfly. If you clamp down to ensure it does not fly away, you kill it. If you keep your hand gently open, the butterfly may rest. It may fly away, it may return. But whether it does or not, it remains a living thing. The beauty was never in owning it. The beauty was in witnessing it alive. Life asks us to hold everything this way. Relationships, dreams, accomplishments, even ourselves. To care deeply, but not constrict. To love fully, but without chains. To participate passionately, but without trying to trap the moment like a trophy to mount on the wall. The most vibrant people are not those who try to cling to life, but those who allow life to move through them, like wind through a flute. Letting go is often misunderstood. It does not mean apathy. It does not mean withdrawal, resignation, or passivity. Letting go simply means refusing to choke the moment with fear. It means trusting that life does not need to be forced to be lived. Just as your heart beats without your supervision, life unfolds without your constant management. You are more a participant than a commander, more a wave than a sculptor of the ocean. And think, for a moment, about every time life surprised you, every person you met by accident, every path that opened only after another closed, every joy that arrived unplanned. None of those moments were engineered. They happened because life, in its own mysterious rhythm, knows how to turn the pages without you tearing them. You are not here to grip existence like a fragile object. You are here to dance with it. But dancing requires trust. A dancer who doubts every movement cannot move freely, and much of our suffering comes not from life itself but from our distrust of it. We keep imagining that something terrible will happen if we dare to loosen our grip, if we stop controlling every outcome, every emotion, every possibility. We fear that without our constant vigilance, everything will fall apart. Yet strangely, the moments when life feels most whole are the moments when we forget to supervise it at all. When you are laughing uncontrollably with someone you love, you are not checking whether the moment is safe to enjoy. When inspiration strikes, you do not schedule it. It arrives when the mind is open and unguarded. The best memories you carry did not happen when you tried to manufacture perfection. They happened when you let life spill. The tragedy is that our fear disguises itself as responsibility. We tell ourselves, I must stay in control so things don't go wrong, but what goes wrong is the constant attempt to stay in control. When the mind is clenched, nothing can breathe. Even success becomes hollow if earned through panic rather than passion. Even love becomes tense when fear guides it. Even identity becomes a prison when we cling to who we think we should be, instead of allowing ourselves to change. The river of life has never stopped flowing. It is only our resistance that makes us feel swept away. Consider the ocean. If you fight the wave, it smothers you. If you float with it, you rise. The ocean has no intention to drown you. It simply moves according to its nature, and so does life. When you resist its natural movement, you feel overwhelmed. When you move with it, you discover that you were buoyant all along. The strength is not in tense muscles, clenched jaw, or anxious control. The strength lies in fluidity, in adaptability, in presence. A tree that cannot bend will snap in the wind, not because the wind is cruel, but because rigidity is fragile. We forget that we are part of life, not something separate from it. We imagine ourselves as managers of existence rather than expressions of it. But you are not a puppet master directing the universe. You are a brief and beautiful moment in the endless unfolding of everything. You are the ocean, not the rock trying to resist its tide. You are the flame, not the iron cage trying to trap it. You are the sky, not the hand attempting to hold it still. Even identity cannot be held without breaking. We cling tightly to a fixed sense of who we are. This is the kind of person I am. This is who I must always be. And in doing so, we fear every change, every evolution, every surprise within ourselves. But you are not a statue carved in marble. You are more like music, constantly moving through different emotions, tempos, and melodies. None invalid, none final. To cling to one version of yourself is to stop listening to your own song. And what about love? How quickly we turn it into something heavy when we try to possess it. We fear that if we do not hold tightly enough, it will slip away. But love is not something that appears because it is trapped. Love appears because it is free. No one has ever fallen in love because they were controlled, only because they were seen. Love is not sustained by chains, but by awareness. To love someone is not to own them. It is to witness them, fully, without needing to alter their shape. When you release the need to secure love like a locked box, you allow it to breathe, and breathing things survive. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is trusting. Trusting that life can carry itself. Trusting that you are allowed to be part of it without controlling every breath. Trusting that you can meet each moment as it arrives rather than engineering it into a predetermined form. Trusting that you can love deeply without gripping, grieve without drowning, hope without demanding guarantees. Look at how birds sleep on the branch. They do not fall because their claws do not tighten by force, they tighten by relaxation. Their weight itself secures them. It is effortless. And we too remain connected to life, not through frantic effort, but through participation. The moments we remember as precious were not forced. They arrive because we were present. To let go is to restore your natural rhythm with existence. When a pianist stops obsessing over every note, music resumes. When a swimmer stops fighting the water, buoyancy returns. When the mind stops clinging, life returns to being the miracle it always was. Letting go is not abandonment, it is alignment. Some people fear letting go because they think it means losing ambition, passion, or direction. But you can pursue dreams without grasping them. You can move toward what you love without fearing what happens if you don't reach it. There is a vast difference between walking down a path because it calls to you, and running down a path because you fear being left behind. One is life, the other is panic. You are meant to move the way a river moves, forward without forcing, flexible without collapsing, powerful without strain. When you stop clenching, you do not float away into nothingness. You meet life where it is, and strangely, you discover that life has been meeting you all along. The universe has always been offering itself to you, not as something to own, but as something to dance with. Letting go is not the end of participation. It is the beginning of real participation. But we are taught from childhood that the world rewards control, that success is manufactured by tightening our grip, that safety is earned by constant vigilance, that happiness is achieved by chasing it harder than everyone else. And so we grow into adults who no longer experience life directly, but try to manage it like a stressful project. We treat existence as a problem to solve rather than a mystery to experience. We treat time as a threat rather than a companion. We treat ourselves as machines to optimize rather than living beings to inhabit. This is why even our joys become burdens. The moment something beautiful happens, fear whispers, "Don't lose this." And suddenly, instead of enjoying the moment, we clutch it so tightly that its light dims. The vacation becomes stressful because it must be perfect. The relationship becomes tense because it must last forever. The achievement becomes meaningless because it must be followed by the next one. We trade presence for protection, and in doing so, we protect ourselves from the very joy we were seeking. Life is not asking you to love recklessly or care less. Life is asking you to take part without turning participation into possession. The flower does not open faster because you pry its petals apart. In trying to make the process happen, you destroy the result. There is a rhythm to existence, and it cannot be accelerated. You can either fall in step with it or collapse from forcing it. Nothing real is rushed, nothing sacred is owned, nothing alive is improved by fear. Notice any area of your life where you feel the most tension, the most anxiety, the most exhaustion. There lies something you are trying to hold, and ask yourself, what would happen if you loosened your grip just a little? Would your world fall apart, or would you finally breathe? Would you lose everything, or would you discover that the things meant for you were never going to leave? Control gives the illusion of safety, but loosening control gives the possibility of life. Letting go does not mean passive drifting. It means allowing movement to be mutual. You do not dance by dragging a partner across the floor. You do not surf by commanding the wave to obey. You do not live by throttling the moment. You live by responding to it, listening, adjusting, participating. For once you stop trying to bend life your way, you notice that life has been moving with you all along. The mind believes that without control, everything collapses. But what collapses when we loosen control is not life, it is fear. What dissolves is the tension that convinced us we were holding everything together, when in reality, we were only holding ourselves hostage. The great irony is that we fear letting go because we don't trust life. Yet the only time life has ever truly worked was when we weren't trying to force it. Think of all the turning points in your history, the sudden opportunities, the unexpected friendships, the drastic changes and direction that shaped you. How many of them did you plan? How many arrived because you white-knuckled your way toward them? And how many arrived because something ended, something shifted, something surprised you, something collapsed and made space for something else? You did not architect your evolution. You lived into it. We imagine that if we stop controlling, life will stop happening. But life will happen regardless. The question is whether you experience it or fight it. The river does not stop flowing because you stop paddling. It stops feeling like a battle. Life does not ask for your stress. Life asks for your presence. To loosen the grip is also to make peace with uncertainty. Not because uncertainty disappears, but because it becomes less frightening. The unknown stops being a shadowy corridor and becomes a doorway. And eventually you realize, you never had certainty to begin with. You only had the illusion of control, and the cost of maintaining that illusion was constant fear. When you let the illusion collapse, you find that the fear collapses with it. There is a deep relief in admitting, I do not need to control everything. It is the relief of finally putting down a weight you did not realize you were carrying. And in that relief, something remarkable happens. You become available to life in a way you haven't been for a very long time. You begin to hear intuition where fear once screamed. You begin to see possibilities where panic once saw danger. You begin to notice beauty where your mind once scanned for threats. In loosening your grip, you do not lose life. You regain it. And perhaps the greatest surprise of all is this: life responds. When you stop forcing, things begin to align. Not because the universe suddenly reorganizes itself to please you, but because you finally stop resisting the flow you were meant to be part of. Opportunities appear not because you demanded them, but because your mind is open enough to see them. Relationships deepen not because you control them, but because you show up without fear. Creativity flourishes not because you pressure it to, but because it is no longer suffocated. Everything begins to breathe again, including you. Letting go is not a single act. It is a way of living. It is a return to the natural intelligence of life. It is the recognition that water finds its path without being instructed. Seasons change without being scheduled, and the heart beats without being commanded. Letting go is not laziness, it is humility. The humility to remember that you are not the architect of reality, but an expression of it. You cannot hold life without crushing it because life is not an object you hold. It is a current you enter. To enter the current of life is to finally understand that participation matters more than possession. You do not need to secure the moment to experience it. You do not need to protect something to appreciate it. You do not need to know where the path ends in order to walk it. The mind begs for guarantees, for labels, for permanence. But permanence is not where meaning lives. Meaning lives in experience, not in ownership. A sunset cannot be kept, yet its beauty is undeniable. Music cannot be held, yet it transforms us. A breath cannot be stored, yet it sustains life. What is most essential has never needed to be clutched. And there will come a moment, perhaps quietly, perhaps in the middle of an ordinary day, when you realize that the fear of letting go has cost you far more than letting go ever will. That every person you tried to hold too tightly drifted away not because of absence, but because of pressure. That every dream you pursued with desperation lost its color, while the ones you explored with curiosity brought you alive. That every part of yourself you tried to suppress in order to stay consistent was not a problem to eliminate, but a new chapter waiting to unfold. There is freedom in allowing yourself to change. You are not meant to be who you were 10 years ago, or even yesterday. The old leaves fall not because the tree has failed, but because it is ready for spring. You too will shed versions of yourself, not to abandon your past, but to honor your becoming. If you cling to who you were, you crush who you are meant to be. Some people hear the idea of letting go and imagine emptiness, that without gripping tightly, life will lose intensity. But the opposite is true. When you stop clinging, every moment becomes more vivid because you are actually present for it. When you release the constant internal struggle to secure meaning, you become free to experience meaning directly. Life becomes deeper, not shallower, more vibrant, not dull, more intimate, not distant. You fall back into rhythm with the world rather than standing outside it, trying to control its tempo. And there is something else, something subtle but profound. When you loosen your grip on life, life seems to loosen its grip on you. The suffering that once pierced you with fear becomes less threatening, not because pain disappears, but because you are no longer fighting it. Sadness can be sad without becoming identity. Fear can arise without becoming destiny. Loss can hurt without becoming a verdict on the future. You become spacious enough to feel deeply without losing yourself in what you feel. And this ability to feel without clinging, to experience without gripping, is one of the quiet miracles of being human. You may find, in time, that letting go changes not only how you relate to life, but how you relate to other people. You stop expecting them to fill the empty places inside you. You stop demanding that they behave a certain way to prevent you from feeling discomfort or insecurity. You stop needing them to be predictable. You begin to see them not as sources of certainty, but as fellow travelers in this strange, beautiful, unpredictable journey. And from that perspective, love becomes lighter and deeper. Lighter because it is no longer burdened by fear. Deeper because it comes from presence rather than need. Letting go also transforms your relationship with the future. Instead of treating it as a threat, you treat it as an invitation. Instead of preparing for every possible danger, you become curious about every possibility. You stop chasing the fantasy of control and start exploring the reality of potential. The future does not need to bow to your expectations in order to be meaningful. It only needs you to be awake when it arrives. Eventually, slowly or suddenly, you realize that letting go was never about losing anything. It was about losing the belief that you needed to grip everything to be safe. You needed to prove something to be worthy. You needed to know the ending to enjoy the story. The hand that once clenched becomes open. The heart that once braced becomes soft. And softness, rather than fragility, becomes the real strength. In the end, nothing is truly yours in the sense of ownership. Not possessions, not moments, not even the body you inhabit. But everything is yours in the sense of experience. You cannot keep the sunset, but you can witness it. You cannot keep the music, but you can dance. You cannot keep life, but you can live. And in living fully, presently, without gripping, you discover that losing control was never the danger. Losing presence was fill. You cannot hold life without crushing it because you were never meant to hold it. You were meant to ride its waves, feel its winds, taste its sweetness. Weather its storms, and let every moment move through you like breath. Life is not a trophy, it is a tide. And the moment you surrender to its movement, you realize something astonishing. The current was never trying to take you under, it was trying to carry you.